All right. Hello, hello. And welcome to the class. There's my teacher email. I am Teacher Jack, and this is going to be learning to read and write phonetics. So in this class, we're going to be talking about the International Phonetic Alphabet. The International Phonetic Alphabet is an alphabet used by linguists to write down words in multiple languages. Hello.
Hello, how you doing?
Hello. Good. How are you?
I'm fine too. I'm doing good.
Mhm.
My name is Antonio. What's your name?
Antonio?
Yeah, yours is Jack, isn't it?
And I am Jack, yes.
Okay, great.
All right. Good to meet you. So
Yeah, nice.
the purpose of this class is going to be to get you guys familiar with the phonetic alphabet, which is useful for these reasons. One, most dictionaries nowadays are written with this as the pronunciation guide. So knowing these symbols will allow you to read dictionaries and understand how an unfamiliar word is pronounced. The other advantage is that in the phonetic alphabet, we don't give in English, letters are called like A, B, C. We give them names like that. But the phonetic
Okay.
alphabet is used by scientists. So the sounds there have scientific names, and they're named after how you make the sound in your mouth. So if there's a sound you're having a hard time make, often learning the name of the sound phonetically can help you make it, because it'll teach you where your tongue is supposed to be and what you're doing with it. So hopefully it won't get too complicated. And I guess if you guys are ready, we can just jump right into it. So the first thing first, I'm going to bring it up here on the screen, is this image. And you see this image is someone's head from the side. You can see some little things. This is important because obviously here is your tongue. These are the lips, the teeth. Here's your nose. So this is all the machinery you use to make sounds. So the first thing we're going to have to know is we're going to have to know what linguists are talking about when we refer to these different parts of your anatomy. So we're going to start at the front of the mouth and go backwards. So the front, first we have right here your lips. So any sound that is made using the lips, in phonetics we call that sound bilabial. And bilabial is just a fancy way of saying with your two lips. It's from Greek. It means two lips. So if you're using both your lips, that sound is bilabial. If we go a little further back and we get your lip and your tooth, we get sounds that are called labio, that's labio for teeth, dental. Dental just means tooth. So those are sounds made with your lips and your teeth. Go a little further back to just right here at the teeth, and right here there's two kinds of sounds made here. I'm going to list them both as the same for ease of purposes. They're sometimes called dental for your teeth. They're also sometimes called alveolar. You don't have to learn all these words. I know they're a little complicated, but alveolar refers to your gums. So those are dental sounds. A lot of sounds are made here. S, T, those are all made right here. So going a little further back, so we're going to take a break here. First we have the nose. Any sound made here in the nose, you can probably guess, is called a nasal sound. So then we have the top of your mouth right here, this place that's labeled the hard palate. Anything made here is called palatal, after that hard palate. You can feel at the roof of your mouth when you say a sh. If you go sh, that's where your tongue is hitting, is that palate, the sh of your palate. Now, a little further back, you get what's called the velum, or the soft palate. If you're brave and you can feel the inside of your mouth without making yourself gag, you'll notice that after a certain point, the top of your mouth goes from hard to soft. That soft area is called your velum. Sounds here are called velar. Velar sounds are things like K and G, G. Those are both velar sounds, K, G. Now, that's about as far back as English goes in the thing. We'll go a little further back. We're going to go a little further back just for anyone who's interested. Here at your uvula, these are sounds are called, as you might imagine, are called uvular. English doesn't have any, but if you're familiar with French or German, that's where that R sound, the R of French and German are both uvular. And then if we go all the way down right here to your glottis is what that little thing is called. These are called glottal. And English does have one of these. It's the sound H. That's a glottal sound. It's made all the way down there. Now, there's a lot of big words here. Don't worry too much about memorizing them. You just need to, I'm just going to use these words later, and you'll see how they relate. They just tell you where in the mouth the sound is being made. So if it's bilabial, that's like the letter M is bilabial. It's made with your lips. If it's labiodental, that means it's like F or V or V, because you make them with your tongue, with your lip, and your tooth. The S sound and the TH sound, those are both dental. They're th. The palate is sh, the velar is k, and the glottal is h. So that is thing one that's important to know. Oh, I see we have a few other people showing up. Hello, Mark. Hello, Edson. So these are the different what are called places of articulation. So the first part of any name for a sound phonetically is going to refer to the place of articulation. So we'll refer to things as bilabial, as labial, dental, as palatal, so on. Those tell you where in the mouth they're made. The second thing that we'll know, that we need to know to refer to these sounds, is the manner of articulation. That means the way the sound is being made. Now, the way a sound is being made, I'll list them here next to the little head. What we're going to have is we have stop sounds, which are also called plosive sounds. I prefer stop because that implies they're doing stop sounds are full, hard stop sounds. P, b, t, k, those are all stops. If we go a little further down, we get a fricative. A fricative is a sound where the airflow, it's called fricative for friction. It's when the airflow is really cramped. So for instance, s is a fricative, is a fricative, sh is a fricative. All these sounds you can hold where you can feel the air shooting out of your mouth, but it's turbulent air, those are fricative sounds. So if we go one back up between stops and fricatives, we get affricatives. Affricatives are kind of, they start as plosives, they end as fricatives. Ch, the CH, the ch sound in English is this. So is the J sound, the j, j. Those are the English affricatives. If you keep going down after fricative, you will get, what are we at? You'll get nasal sounds. Nasal sounds are ones made with your nose. So N, M, the NG, the those are all nasals. If we go one lower, we get approximants. And approximants are called that because they're approximately a vowel. So approximants are made with only they're barely your tongue and your mouth don't move too much for them. W is one of these, W. Y is one of these, Y. R is also one of these, R, because you're not actually doing too much with your mouth. You're not really obstructing the air. So as you can see, these go in descending order of how much they get in the way of the air. Stops completely stop the airflow. Fricatives don't stop the airflow, but they really constrict. Nasals go up through your nose instead of through your mouth, and approximants barely touch the airflow. So does anyone have any questions on these? No? All right. So like I said, these words, they're all a little technical. The only reason I'm showing you them is because you'll need to know them to understand the way sounds are referred to in IPA. So I'm now going to bring up here is actually the official what the IPA chart, oops, that's not correct, what the IPA chart looks like. It looks like this. This is the official international phonetic alphabet. And you can see there's all these sounds and symbols. If it looks a little intimidating, don't worry, because most of these we won't have to worry about because they're not in English. But as you can see here, we have those bilabials we heard about, and then you have a bilabial plosive, and that's where P and B both live, and we'll talk about that distinguish in a bit. But if I wanted to refer to any of these boxes, the way I refer to these sounds is I first say the place of articulation, which are up here, that's where it's made in the mouth, and then the manner, which is how it's made in the mouth. So P and B are both bilabial plosives. If I wanted to talk about T or D, as you can see, T or D count as all these things. We're going to call them dental, because that's a little easier for most people to say than alveolar, I feel. So if I want to say a dental plosive, that's a T or a D. If I wanted to say a, let's say the sh sound, this symbol means sh. That's a, well, we'll say, they say post-alveolar, we'll say palatal. That would be a palatal fricative. So there you can see all the consonants. So for instance, would someone like to tell me what, for example, you would call this L sound down here? Does anyone want to take a swing at that?
Alveolar.
Alveolar, but it's not just alveolar. It's an alveolar.
Lateral approximate.
Correct. Alveolar lateral approximant. And lateral, by the way, just means that it's just a slightly different word. We don't need to worry about it. L and R are both approximates. So luckily, like I said, we don't have to worry about all those. We just have to worry about English. So over here, I have this page on English. By the way, Wikipedia is actually a great source for these sounds and whatnot, because you can see here we go. If I wanted to see what a sound sounds like in any language, I can click on it, and it will bring me to the Wikipedia page, and the first thing on the page will be this long list of the sound in all these languages. So that's including English with there, and then it written in the phonetic alphabet. So very convenient for anyone who wants to look into this on their own time. So we can see here that what English has is we have M, the bilabial nasal, P and B, bilabial stops, F and V, labial dental fricatives, dental fricatives, alveolar fricatives. They say post-alveolar here. That's where I like to say palatal, so let's just pretend those are the same. Velar and glottal, which, like I said, is only the H. So really quick, we see that there's sometimes these pairs of sounds, P and B, F and V, these two, S and Z, so on and so forth. When you have these pairs, that's a distinction in something that in linguistics is called voicing. And voicing is when you use your vocal cords to make a sound, or if you don't. So if you say that, and I think Ricardo was in my last class, he had a little familiarity with this. If you say those sounds like P, F, all the ones on the left, P, F, T, S, if you feel your vocal cords, you don't use your vocal cords to make them p, p, f, f, s, s, sh, sh. And I encourage you all to make plenty of noises under your breath. I see most of you have your microphones off, so be noisy while you're making these sounds. It's really helpful to try to make the sounds as you do them. And you'll notice that all their counterparts on the right, if you say those sounds, your vocal cords suddenly pop into action. So if you feel your throat, you'll feel it move. B, v, z, j, z, d. So those are voiced and voiceless. So when we get it all together, I'm going to write this in the chat here. P is what we would call a voiceless bilabial stop. And so you can see right there that the phonetic name of this sound has told me three things. It's told me I don't use my vocal cords, I am using both of my lips, and I am completely stopping the airflow. So b, b is how I say that one. Whereas if I was to make, p is how I make it because my vocal cords don't vibrate. So as you can see there, that while it's a little complicated to learn these, it's really useful when you see sounds you're not so familiar with. I frequently have used this when learning languages that don't have, like Chinese, that have sounds that are very dissimilar to English. That it's a lot easier to just look up the phonetics of how it's made than hear someone try to explain it to you. So sounds that some may be hard for you. So the English R is approximant. But you can see that it's made in the alveolar, post-alveolar area. So it's like if you take your tongue up to make an S or to make a T, but then you kind of miss, like don't actually touch your lips, just miss it, you go ruh, ruh. Like you're missing with your tongue because you're barely obstructing the airflow to make that ruh. Or for instance, the TH sound, where some people have that problem with, well, it's dental. So you put your tongue right on your teeth, between your teeth even, and then do as if and then blow as if you're making an S. But with S, your tongue is at the back on your teeth. With TH, it's between your teeth. It's between your teeth. Now, you'll notice there are two, because in English there are actually two TH sounds, and you can hear those sounds and the difference between thin and thin. Those two words I've entered in the chat. Thin is the voiced dental fricative, the one on the right there. Thin is the voiceless dental fricative, the one on the left there. And you can hear they're otherwise are the same sound, thin and thin. So that's how we name these sounds in English. So it can be very helpful, like I said, to when you're having trouble producing a sound, or if one of these sounds is giving you a hard time, of looking up, and you can use Wikipedia for this, what actually that symbol is called. Because this little N, this is the symbol for the NG sound in English. It's a velar nasal. And I know that velars are where I make a K or a G sound. So if I go K, but then I try to make a nasal noise, I make it through my nose, I go So that's that NG. That's how I know where it's made. So that's basically how to read these consonants. So before I move on to vowels, can anyone tell me, for instance, what would I call this sound that I've just highlighted? It has three titles. What are those? Does anyone want to take a guess?
Post-alveolar fricative.
It is a post-alveolar fricative, but there's one more thing.
Voiceless.
What?
Correct. It is the voiceless post-alveolar fricative. Now, you only have to mention whether or not it's voiced or voiceless with those ones that have two in them. If there's not two in there, you don't actually have to specify because there's only one. So, for instance, there's only one N. So I don't have to say the voiceless alveolar nasal. I just have to say alveolar nasal, and it's understood that the nasal is voiced. So a few more really quick, just to make sure everyone's on this. I think we are. What would you call this sound right here? I heard someone mumbling it. It's called a glottal fricative. So remember, it's the
Stop.
No, it's not a stop.
Voiceless.
Hmm?
Voiceless? No.
Yes, it is also voiceless. The voiceless glottal fricative. Does everyone understand why that's a glottal fricative?
It's because of the chart.
Yeah, it's because of the chart, but you can also feel it in your mouth when you go.
Ah, yeah.
The only thing
It comes
making any
from your
motion,
gut.
it's all the way back there, the bottom of your throat. You can feel your Adam's apple. That's where that sound is coming from. Your tongue isn't doing anything. Your lips aren't doing anything. Your uvula's not doing anything. It's just there. So glottal. So remember remember to use this chart to your advantage, but also remember what these sounds mean. Remember our little chart of the man with a side cut of his face. That bilabial are the lips. Velar is the back of the throat. Palatal is near to the top of the mouth. Postalveolar and alveolar dental are right there near the gums and teeth. Labiodental with your tooth and your lip. Now, things are going to get a little more complicated, but we're going to move on to vowels. And they're a little more complicated just because vowels are they change a lot. You can see here that there are 3 charts for vowels. The one on the left is going to be for British English. The one on the right is for Australian. The one for the middle is for American, and that's the one I speak. So that's the one that I prefer to use. So here we can see that all of a sudden our chart has changed. We have close, mid, open, and front, central, back. Now English distinguishes long and short, but these are English terms, not really phonetic terms. So forget about long and short for right now. Just remember front, central, back, close, mid, open. And what these refer to is where your tongue is, whether or not it is forward in the mouth or near the back of the mouth, and the closed mid open refers to how high up your tongue is. Sometimes you'll see these referred to as your tongue height. Instead of closed mid open, it'll be high and low. So you can also see high, mid, and low will also be used instead of closed, mid, and open. But so for an example, this lowercase I, that's the sound E. And if you make that sound, you can feel your tongue. It's near the front of your mouth, and it's almost touching your gums. E, E. The opposite of that is if we come back here to this sound, this back open sound. That's ah. And if you say ah, you can even feel your jaw will open up when you say that, and your tongue will lower and fall backwards. Ah. It's the opposite of E. Now, if we go up here to this U, that's ooh. So you can feel that it's still in the back. Ooh, you're still making it in the back, but all of a sudden, your tongue is still up near the top of your mouth again. Ooh, ooh, e, ah. And you can feel those changes. So we refer to these once again the same way. So this is the back close vowel, is the ooh. Oftentimes you'll also see rounded or unrounded in the same way you'll see voice or voiceless for the consonants. Rounded refers to what your lips are doing. So we're going to actually look at the full chart here back on our IPA page. And here we have the vowels. They're arranged in this trapezoid, which is the name of this shape. And the reason that they're like this is because you'll notice that your mouth is not a perfect rectangle. Your mouth pinches towards your jaw, and it's more open at the front of your mouth, and you can open it wider. So because of that, the space in your mouth is not a perfect grid, and so our chart represents that. So these vowels at the bottom, these open vowels, are a lot more similar to each other than these vowels up at the top. You'll also notice that they're paired, just like our sounds were paired here in the thing. But instead of voiced and voiceless, what we have is unrounded and rounded. So for instance, if anyone is familiar perhaps, or Turkish, this sound, that Y, that is the U with the umlauts, the U sound, which is the same as E, but you round your lips to make it. So E, U, E, U. Now, English luckily doesn't distinguish between rounded and unrounded too much, except for right down here. So we'll flip back to our English phonology chart, and we'll go through what these sounds are. So like I said, this undercase I, this is E. This is like in beat, street, feet is E. This sound is, this is the short I, this is I. This is like in bit, trip, lit, those are all I. If we go down, we get this little backwards looking 3, kind of look like an E, it's an epsilon. This is the vowel. You find this in red, bread, cred, dead, that's Down here we have this thing that looks like an A and an E fused together. That's So you can feel your mouth go down. So you can feel it it's at the front of your mouth, but you open up to say it, And is the verb you find in cat, hat, land, and Now, if we go across here, this upside down V, this is This is butt, luck, strut, mutt, Further back than is We've gone over that. This is a O. You rarely find this vowel on its own. It's normally next to an R or another vowel. So for, bore, store are all examples of this vowel. Then we have this U. This is oo. Then we have this little upside down omega. And this is the short oo. This is the sound you find in would, could, should, book. All have this this short sound. It's like oo, but less stress. So oo, This is very tense oo. This is very untense It's similar to the relationship between the lowercase I and the capital I. So E, I, oo, Now then we have this little upside down E, and this is a very special vowel. It's called a schwa. And a schwa is kind of like a little, barely even there vowel. It's just you barely even hear it. You find it you never find this on a stressed syllable in English. It's always unstressed. In contract, the first vowel there, contract. In little, the last vowel, the ul, little, those are all schwas. Now, really quick, I'm going to talk about these things. They're called diphthongs, which is a really fun word. You should try saying it out loud. Diphthong. You don't have to memorize it. Most English people don't know what this word means, but it is a lot of fun for me to say. Diphthong. I hope you like it too. Diphthong just refers to when two vowels make one sound. And these are really common in English, in any kind of English, as you can see from our charts. So they're important to know. So the primary diphthongs are these ones right up here. This is A, like play, game, made, trade, is all these. And you can see it's is this A vowel. You find this vowel on its own. You find this vowel in a lot of languages like Spanish. This is what E is in Spanish. But in English, we only ever find this vowel with this I, this little, remember our little I friend. So A. Then we have it with an A. This is I. This is I. This is how I, as in myself, is pronounced. I, as in eyeball, height, plight, right, are all I. So remember, it's I, A. Now this one, remember this is our for vowel, for, bore, store. When it pairs with that I, it becomes oi. So this is boy, toy, your aunt Floy, all kinds of words, oi. Then we have ow. This is how, now, plow. Then we have O. This is thorough, go, no. So that's what these are. So remember, it's ooh, oh, ooh, ow, a, I, a. So those are these vowels, these diphthongs. So, and like I said on Wikipedia, normally we have the advantage they kind of have these little charts of what they sound like. They're a little complicated because it's trying to do a chart for English, for American English, for British English, for Australian English, for Scottish, and all the different dialects have different vowels. In English, the consonants tend to stay the same, but the vowels change quite a bit. So basically, this is our inventory for English. We have these consonants up here, then we have these vowels down here. And there's a nice chart right here on the Wikipedia page. Like I said, you can go through these, you can click on these sounds, it'll bring you to a page full of examples of them from other languages. So hopefully, I can see we've lost one person. I hope the rest of you are keeping up. I hope this isn't too complicated. Does anyone have any questions? I know I've just been going.
No. Well, yes, I have a question. What about the last diphthongs, the two that were between parentheses?
The two, oh yes, the two that were between parentheses. So these kind of, the problem with these is that these are vowels you find next to R's is what they are. So for instance, if I say fear, there's the fee, like fee, the word is, here, I'll write it for you. If I were to say fear, like that, or here,
Fear.
these are
It's not
written.
common?
Well, it's common, but it's kind of it's paired with another word. So it's not really that's a diphthong on its own, as that final R is bringing in a schwa next to it. So you could kind of think of here and fear as two syllables. It's he written with that I, and then let me see if I can get a copy of that schwa. And then it is so here, or fee, They're written like that phonetically. So they are diphthongs because it's not really here, it's here and fear. So they glide really seamlessly. So they are diphthongs. I think Kako up there was correct. Here is one of those. So that's what those are. And you can see actually on the left with the received pronunciation, that's British. If you know in the English dialects, they don't pronounce their final R's. So all those things at the bottom, you see those triphthongs, which are 3 vowels. What most of those are is just a diphthong followed by an R. But in British pronunciation, those R's become schwas. So they become these complicated triphthongs. Luckily for us, in general American at least, we don't have many of those, if any. But yeah, that's what those last two are down there. So let's see. Does that answer your question? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's kind of natural, those sounds, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not an independent sound. That's why they put
Yeah.
it in parentheses.
Exactly. There are 2 sounds, but they're not independent. They're kind of sharing the space. So they fuse together and become a diphthong, which is that fancy word that just means 2 vowels. So let me go over them and just see, because once I said the reason, I know this is all a bit technical, and the reason I'm showing you this is that if you look up dictionary entries nowadays, they'll tend to write the words in this alphabet. And the reason is because theoretically, if you know this alphabet, no matter what language you speak natively or what language you're trying to read, you'll know how it sounds. So, what sound does this one make? This one.
E.
E. Correct.
Long E.
And what about this one right next to it?
E.
I. Correct. I. Now, what about this one underneath? It's a little lower.
E.
And this one right here?
A.
Yeah, remember it's ah. It's not ah. It's ah. It's in the front of your mouth. Ah. Yes. Don't worry about making lots of weird noises. That's what phonetics is all about. If you've ever known a sound scientist, they walk around mumbling all the time, weird noises. So moving on, what about this one in parentheses here, this upside down V? You remember how that one sounds? Correct. So let's see. Then we have this one here. Ah. This is when you're at the doctor's and they want you to open your mouth, say ah. And you go all the way in the back. Ah. Yeah. What about this one?
Oh.
Correct. Oh. It rarely appears on its own in English, so you'll pretty much only ever see this one with an R or an I afterwards, or oi. What about this? What about this one right here? This U. Ooh. Yeah, nice and easy. And what about its friend, the little upside down omega? Correct, like should or could.
Could.
Correct. So let's go, and luckily most of the consonants, as we can see, pretty much look like what they are, but just to make sure, what does this one sound like?
Cha.
Correct. And what about this over here?
No.
Correct. That's that NG sound. No. You only ever find that at the end of a word in English. You'll never find that at the beginning of a word. It's only ever at the very end. Ing is its most common form. So let's see. I think it'll be a good practice. I'm going to look up some words for you. And we're going to just, let's go to the English dictionary. And so they've written it with the French for some reason. So pretending as though, wait, why is this the German? Okay, here we go. So as you see, if you go look up using the Wiktionary, which is a good dictionary, it's got all the words. You can come down here and they'll have this pronunciation section, and it'll tell you from what part of the world, and you can even listen to it played. But garage, where's you? So here it is. So do you think you can read that? Does anyone think they can read that?
Garage.
Correct. So it's good. Remember, this schwa is barely there. It's good. Then the R is upside down. That's standard. Don't worry too much about it. So this is raw. And some people say garage, which is why they have this D here, because then it's be J. But most people don't pronounce it with that G. So this sound right here is J. So garage.
Garage.
So really quick, are there any, while we're here, before I start looking up sounds I think will be fun to make you pronounce, does anyone have any sounds or words they typically struggle with in your English studies?
Yeah. Can I go first?
Yeah.
Okay. I have some troubles pronouncing these combination of words like would, should, and things like that.
Would,
Uh,
should, could.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
let's look up some of those. So as you can see, they're actually simpler than you might think. It's written with all these letters, but it's actually only 3 sounds. So the vowel is that could,
Could,
could.
could.
And basically all the words that end like this, O-U-L-D, they're all pronounced like that. So could, should is pronounced like that, but with the little sh. They're all
Should.
good. In fact, let's see if it'll just bring up things that rhyme. Yeah. So this is all words that end the same. So these all rhyme. Could, good,
Good,
could,
could,
should,
should,
stood, would, and would.
would.
And remember that even though would has this L, you don't pronounce the L. So all these are end the same. Could, good, would, pud, should, stood, would.
Would. Okay.
Obviously, they're all written quite a bit differently, but blame the 1600s English speakers for spelling their words that way.
Okay.
So I hope that helped, right?
Yep. Thank you.
So yeah, could. Does anyone else have some problem words?
Yeah, that word literature or something.
Literature.
Literature.
Everyone know what this word means?
Yeah, I know what it means, but
Okay.
I always miss the pronunciation.
Okay.
Literature.
So they've written it a little
Literature.
complicated here. I'm gonna try and see if I can write it a little easier for us in the chat box. All right. All right. Here we go. Copy that. So here in the chat box, I'm going to get rid of. They've added in some extra markings because there are some other things you can look for in IPA. In IPA, in phonetics, we have these terms narrow and broad transcription.
Literature.
And when I say narrow or broad, what that means is that I can be more specific and less specific with my spelling in phonetics. So some of these ones are very narrow. They're written more specifically. So here's how I would write it for you guys.
Literature.
Yeah, so we'll go just a little bit at a time. So the first part we have right here is litter.
Little.
Litter. And this is actually the same, this is actually exactly how you pronounce the word litter, which means trash.
Little.
Litter.
Little.
Litter.
Little.
So remember when you make that sound at the end, really you don't want to get a you want to
Okay.
So the second half of the word is itcher. Itcher. Now when you see that schwa, you'll notice, did you notice that with the way they wrote it, do you see how their schwas look a little funny?
Yeah.
The schwas are kind of odd. The reason they've written those, it's a very odd sound. It appears only in English and in Mandarin Chinese. It's written like that. What that is it's an R-colored schwa. And yeah, you said it right. It's It's just if the R was its own syllable. You know how with the diphthongs, the two vowels, they were both fused? Now imagine if the schwa and the letter R fuse together, and you get this It's its own syllable, So, yeah. That's what that sound means. You can also just write it with a schwa and an R, but you can also write it with that silly little symbol, which is just a schwa with a wing coming off of it, basically. So you can see it's literature.
Literature.
Yes. Now some people that mid vowel, the itcher, sometimes becomes an ah or something, literature. Edson hates that word. I hate it too. Literature. It's a word. It's the only problem with phonetics is that then you start thinking about the way you say words, and all of a sudden you can't speak anymore. Now I'm going in my head, literature.
Literature.
But yeah, so a fun thing, whenever you see these TUs in English, TU will frequently become sound like a ch sound. And if you want to know why that is, it's actually
Literature.
so when you think about that ooh,
Literature.
where ooh is actually taking place in your mouth is the palate. If you feel ooh, your tongue is right near this place you make the sh sound, ooh, sh, you can feel your tongue is actually right in that same location. So your T is going from a T, going to that ooh, and on the way there it makes a sh sound. So that's why TU in literature, the chur, it goes ch,
Literature.
chur.
Literature.
So it's literature.
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 That was it,
Literature.
right there. Literature. Remember to really
Literature.
ruh. You wanna make sure.
Literature.
Correct,
Lit-
nailed it. All right.
Okay.
See? Did that help you guys?
Yeah.
So yeah, so you can always come to the Wiktionary to look things up. Any other words you guys find complicated or?
Lavatory?
Lavatory.
Ah, good word. So this word, I actually barely use this word. In America, we pretty much always say bathroom.
Yeah.
Lavatory.
But you
Lava.
can see that in British English it's lavatory. It's lavatory.
Lavatory.
In the U.S. pronunciation, it's lavatory. We keep that O, whereas in British English they drop it. So lavatory.
Lavatory.
Lavatory, yes.
Lavatory.
It sounds a lot like laboratory, but it's lavatory.
Lavatory.
Lavatory, yes.
Lavatory.
All right. So are you guys getting a little help being able to actually read these sounds, knowing what they make?
Lavatory. Lavatory.
Mm-hmm.
Lavatory.
So this part right here, by the way, how would you say just those two that I've highlighted?
Or.
Correct.
Or.
Lavatory. Sometimes.
Lavatory.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes, by the way, when you see these periods in the transcription, those periods are separating syllables. So you can see that there's lav, tor, e. And you also see this apostrophe. That apostrophe always goes before the stressed syllable. So because in English the first one is stressed here, it's lavatory. Lavatory. It's not lavatory, it's lavatory.
Lavatory.
Mm-hmm. So you can see why in British English the reason it's tree instead of tory is because that's unstressed, it's kind of easier to just say lavatory instead of lavatory. But either will work. U.S. people will understand lavatory just as well.
Okay.
We say that honestly as well. So anything else?
Teacher, I just wrote 3 words in the chat box. Could you help me with those ones?
Yeah. In fact, here's what we're going to do. So you have focus, in fact. Well, I just said them, but I'm going to look them up. And here it is. How do you think you would say it, just based off that?
Okay. Focus.
Correct.
Focus. Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, focus.
Focus.
Because remember that schwa is barely there. Focus, yes.
Focus. I don't really like to pronounce that word because, if I pronounce that in the wrong way, it sounds like a bad word in English.
Oh, yes. Yeah, always make sure it's faux, not
Faux.
pho. If you
Yeah.
say pho, you're going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
O. O
So,
and
so,
Remember, by the way, I'm going to go back to this page. So remember that this is our or sound, and this is our sound. Now remember that this on the left means that your lips are not rounded when you say it.
okay.
So when you're doing that focused and you're trying to make sure you don't say the bad word, always remember to round your lips. Because if you round your lips, you can't go You can't go
Oh,
If you round your lips, you're going full. So, and that'll be
full.
fine. You can go focused. It sounds a
Focused.
little weird, but you won't be saying a bad word. So
Okay.
remember that as
Gotcha.
long as you keep your lips round, you can't go If you just
Okay.
keep your lips round, you're going to be doing ooh, o, or o. Only if they're unrounded can you go or ah.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
yeah. So there's a little help. Here they haven't given us the pronunciation, so I'm just going to write it for you because it's actually very easy. It's only slightly different. Focus.
Focus.
Focus. Oh, okay.
That is how the second word you wrote is pronounced.
Focused. Focused. Okay.
Now you'll notice that actually, here's the interesting thing, how it ends in a T, even though it's written with a D. The reason is because remember that our T up here, T is voiceless, and S is also voiceless. So when you put that D next to that S, they want to kind of share it, so the D becomes a T to be more similar to the S. You'll find that words that end in voiced consonants tend to also get these voiced consonants following them, and voiceless like to pair with voiceless.
Okay.
So keep that in mind. Just that's not something you have to worry too much about around, but keep in mind that that's a thing that languages do.
Okay.
And I see Edson has written here sheet versus shit. Same
Yeah.
problem. Sadly, that's not as easy to solve as the vowel rounding. Here's an interesting thing, actually. I wasn't mentioning this because it was a little complicated and I didn't want to put more on you guys than I had. But you might have noticed, oops. Let's go to, let's go to the English phonetics page. So, this is how easy it is to get where we are. Now you'll notice here when I went to these vowels, notice how this I has a colon after it?
Yeah.
Unlike these. In phonetics, that colon means long. It means that the vowel is literally held longer. And you'll notice that we have this colon and there's no uncolon version. Unlike, for example, in Australian English, you have long, short, long, short. In English, we call them long, short, but that's not actually the difference. They used to be the difference. This one used to literally be it, and this was E, and this is E, but no longer. Now in English, we have it and E. So remember that this E is actually held longer than the it. So if you listen to it, shit, but then sheet, that E
Shoot.
lasts longer. So if you kind of always remember when you're pronouncing that long E to hold it longer, even if you're saying the wrong vowel, shit, it'll help disambiguate. So sheet, shit, sheet, shit.
She.
So that's a way to actually help with that problem. Is that it's got those colons after it. So let's see. Last on your list of words was FACT. So let's go look up that one. And there it is. And would you like to try pronouncing it?
Fact.
Fact.
Fact. Correct.
Fact.
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 Yes. Now remember with this one, also important to keep it in the front of your mouth. Fact. Because if you
Fact.
let it fall back in your mouth, it's going to be pho, and you're going to get in trouble again. So fact. In the front of the mouth, not in the back of the mouth. Don't want to get in trouble.
Fact. Okay.
Fact. So we've got about 5 minutes left. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to ask or have me look up, or any questions about phonetics in general?
Very useful class because I don't remember now, but all the time I have troubles with the pronunciation.
Yeah. So always remember that Wikipedia in this is your friend. Wikipedia and the Wiktionary are your friend. Like I said, if you're having trouble with a sound in English, remember that, for instance, if you go to these sounds and you're like, I can't remember, because it's easy now with me to say them for you, but if you're like, oh, I can't remember how to say this vowel, click on it, and it will take you to this page. And suddenly it'll have this list of this sound in all these languages. So if you don't speak English but you speak French or German or Hindi, or we go down here, it doesn't exist in Spanish, but if you speak any of these languages, then it'll also show you an example of that sound in all these other languages. So it's really useful. Also, you can have Wikipedia pronounce it for you. It's always got here. Oh, one last thing before I forgot. If you want to practice with these, actually, and I put the link in the little class link options, we have that Mockingbird. I don't know if you guys saw it there. Let me see if I can pull it up. There it is. Mockingbird. Let me get it on the right screen. So this page right here, this is a page, I've linked you to it. It has all the IPA, all these vowels on it. It has the vowels, it has the consonants. You can actually click them, and a man will pronounce them for you. And he'll always say them. He'll like if you click this one, he'll say pa, because he'll pronounce it in the middle of a syllable, at the beginning of one, and at the end. And if you even want, you can go to this little test yourself, and it'll just randomly make a sound, and you can try and guess by clicking the features what it is. That's not terribly useful for English per se, because you might make a lot of different sounds, but here's a place where you can go to click all these things, and you'll hear the sounds as he makes them.
Okay.
So that is it's a nice useful tool for anyone interested.
Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, you guys are welcome. I really hope you do continue using the phonetic alphabet. I've found it very useful in my attempts to learn other languages. So that's all for now. I really hope you guys had a good time.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you, teacher.
Bye, guys.
Goodbye.